What is up, Packers fans, and welcome back to the Daily Draft, brought to you by Brewski Light Lager, Badger State Brewing, at beautiful Badger State Brewing, right by Lambeau Field. Going to be so much fun stuff going on there for the Daily Draft, for the NFL Draft. I think from April 22nd to the 27th. Obviously, that isn't the length of the draft, but they're going to have some crazy stuff going on there. We got crazy stuff going on right here because for the first time in Daily Draft 2025, we've got a guest, and it is none other than Jacob Morley. How you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. We are off and running. So feel like we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of it now, Ross. So I'm doing good.
We are, and we had been I hopped on the radio with Andy Herman, and he mentioned that the Daily Draft was 5 days a week, and I said, not so fast, my friend. Gave him a little Lee Corso. I said, now the combine has happened, we're actually 7 days a week. I'm going to not so fast, my friend, myself, because this is a bonus episode. So not only are we going daily, this is a bonus episode of combine winners and losers. Might be the longest episode in the history of the Daily Draft, but let's hit the highlights, especially from a Packers perspective. You did the rundown here. When it says Tet Slow, are we talking about Tetaroa McMillan, or is this a misprint and we are talking about Tez from Oregon?
No, we were talking about, well, they're both slow.
But McMillan didn't run, right?
No, he did not run. And I think
can't go top 22, I would say. Certainly can't.
I'll tell you what, man, what the things I'm hearing about his 40 time would be concerning to the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
And I think it's concerning to the NFL as well. And I think that is why kind of at the beginning of the combine, last Monday or whatever it was, we kind of started hearing like, hey, Ted McMillan he's maybe not as high on NFL boards as y'all's boards.
Okay.
And y'all meaning us. When you just watch the film, in my opinion, his film he's a top 10 player in this class.
100%. Film grade for me, top 10.
But then you start hearing whispers of 4.7s, and that's concerning. And I get it. Like, I do get it. People are going to be like, well, he's a good football player. Don't care. And you know what? You might be right. But Bill Polian, I keep bringing this up because this is a great quote. Bill Polian, Hall of Fame GM, talks about do not bet on outliers. And that makes sense to me. And if McMillan's going to be an outlier in that sense, I still think I'd take him at 23. But there are some legitimate concerns, I think, about his long speed. And a guy like that didn't even work out and is still going to kind of take a ding. Because if you don't work out, teams are going to say, why? Why? Are you scared to compete? Or what are you hiding? And so with McMillan, that was kind of already the thing is, man, what's his 40 time going to look like? If he can run mid 4.5s, he's golden. If he can run 4.6s, that's not great, but whatever. But 4.7, that's quite the outlier for a wide receiver, and that's not confirmed. And that's just speculation. That's just what I think is starting to circulate a little bit. But in any case, that's not great news for the McMillan fans, which I am one of them.
So I got a tweet from Ben Fennell, and we like Ben, right? Says your 40 time doesn't define your ability to get open or your potential in the NFL. Antonio Brown 4.56, Devontae 4.56, Amon-Ra St. Brown 4.61, Keenan Allen 4.71. Separate and catch the football. That's the job. Okay. With that said, you're chasing outliers, and I would argue you're also potentially beyond the Mendoza line. Like, I think it's 4.65, which the only guy above 4.65 on that group is Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen made a heck of an NFL career I don't know that he was ever considered like a true one.
Mm-hmm.
He also was hurt when he ran his 40, like famously not 100% when he ran his 40. So I think that's kind of unfair to even include that. But I think the Mendoza line is 4.65, like where you see Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4.61. I don't know where the line. I mean, you know this better than me. Where the line is for Green Bay. You run and I know it's incredibly arbitrary, but you run a 4.66. I don't know if I can do it, man. I don't know if I believe that you have the speed to get open.
Right. I think with McMillan, a lot of people were talking about like, hey, is he the next Mike Evans? Is that who he is? And it's like, no, Mike Evans was what 235 and ran in the 4.4s. Like, that's not who he is. He's not even that big. I think a more fair comp for him now at this point would be T. Higgins, who I think ran in the low 4.6s as well.
I've got
And
some Drake London for you if you're interested as well.
Drake London, that's actually spoiler. That's actually the comp I gave him in the guide.
Oh no,
because because a lot of it's because of the back shoulder stuff. Like when Drake London came out, like he was very proficient in that, and so is McMillan. And that's where if McMillan is going to be a successful NFL player, which I still think he will be, but it's going to be on that type of stuff, and that kind of depends a little bit on your quarterback too. He's going to be a little bit more dependent on who's throwing the football. I don't think he is the type of wide receiver that's going to transcend all schemes, all quarterback play, like some of us maybe thought he was at the beginning of this process. So for him, I think it's just kind of recalibrating your expectations for him. And, for a lot of people, he was wide receiver one with a bullet. And I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore.
Right. No, I think he has to run at his pro day. All right, this thing's not going to be short and sweet if we take 6 minutes every time. Everybody knows you and I could talk ball for hours. Tory Horton, you and I were scared that I think he was listed at like 6 pounds underweight to be a Green Bay Packer. Came in at 193. Love that. I'll give you a chance briefly to talk tiers, very briefly, because you have something coming out about that. We'll touch on that when we do positional previews. But talk to me kind of about how Tory Horton came back into the light for Packers fans that love his work.
And I'm one of them. Like Tory Horton, when you turn the film on with Tory Horton, you think that is a Green Bay Packer wide receiver. Just the way he moves, the way he goes about his business. Natural football player for that position. But I heard he was like 178. Like I heard, like if he comes in at 185, that's going to be a big win for him. And then he came in at what? It was like 196.
193. I think 193.
Either way, I mean, he's in that range. That's close enough. Let me look real quick because I do think 196. 196 he came in at, and then you think, okay, well,
maybe he bulked up because people heard, yeah.
Oh, he ran fast. He worked out really well. I mean, he's going to. I think we still need the agilities on him. And a lot of people have been asking me, like, well, who are your tier one guys? Who are the tier one guys? One, buy the guide, and you can look at all of them. But two,
that's right.
Two, we still need. I mean, no one does agilities anymore at the combine.
I know.
And another reason, honestly, to buy the guide is that it's a lot of work to track down all of these numbers for these guys at these pro days. And we do a good job of it, of getting them all in one spot. So. We're going to have to wait on Horton's 3-cone. I want to say he didn't do that, but a lot of guys –
they'll at least run it at the pro day usually.
Yeah. Well, and that's one that they usually do. More, that's kind of a comfort one too. But he is someone that just by watching film, you would say, wow, this is a Packer wide receiver. Jake, is he a tier one guy? And it was like, he's really light. And then he came in 196 and then just kind of skyrocketed back into the conversation. Really, really exciting young player. So I think that was not just for the Packers either. That's just a big win for him in general to come in at a legit NFL receiver size and then run the way he did.
Absolutely. Cincinnati Bengals, you could keep T. Higgins. Give me Jaden Higgins. Just an absolute moonshot weekend for our boy. although I'm concerned, the sweet spot, right, is the second round. You can go on and on. Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, like tons and tons of Packers wide receivers come from that round 2. Might be a round 2 trade up. I don't know that Jaden Higgins is going to make it to where Green Bay picks in round 2 after that performance. Boy, it would be fun to see him in green and gold.
Well, in this wide receiver class too, what really separates him from McMillan? He worked out
Fast.
better. His numbers are great. They
Boy,
both played
fast.
at.
That's what separates him.
It's not like Arizona is this massive program that's so much better than Iowa State. So hell, who knows? Who knows where Higgins ends up? But he had a great weekend, and our boy, Coach Noah Pauley, who coached Christian Watson at NDSU, and then moved up to Iowa State where he coaches the receivers there. I mean, both of his guys showed out this weekend.
Yes, Jalen Noel had a big week. I just think
shout out to Coach. But yeah. I was just gonna say I asked him before. I was like, hey, Coach, what do you think? What are these guys going to look like at the combine? And I mean, he nailed it. I think I sent you that text where he's he's like, Higgins is going to run in the mid 4.4s. He's going to make himself a ton of money. Noel's going to be really explosive, look really good in drills, and he's probably going to be the top guy in the bench press. And he was. Like, Paulie hit every single one.
Got the short arms, baby.
Nice, man. Like, I'll just go to you next time. I don't even have to watch. Yeah,
Jalen. He sort of plays the same position as Jaden Reed, but I might not care. I mean, he's something else, man. This tight end class, not that the Packers are necessarily in the market with Musgrave and Kraft under contract, but a lot of guys that people like, right? Your Colston Lovelands, Tyler Warrens, but even down the line, guys that people like, they're slow. This class is slow. I kind of, I did I think a Luke Lachey pod or prospect preview and thought about, well, maybe they want to get 2 years removed from that right where like Kraft and Musgrave come up at the same time for a new deal. Do they want to get 2 years removed from that, get another tight end in the building? They kind of like their tight ends to be freaky. You sort of throw the Richard Rodgers out with the trash. All the rest of the guys that they've taken high have been, not all the rest, because I guess they did take DeGuara, but maybe that was to play fullback. Certainly Musgrave and Kraft. What's that?
Jace was not a great athlete.
That's true.
That's true. High 6, low 7. And I almost wonder, Ross, if that was kind of where they finally said
the straw broke the camel's back. And yeah,
like just because then they went and took Musgrave and Kraft, who were two of the freakiest tight ends that have come out in the last.
Well, and you look at Kittle, mid-round guy, astronomical RAS, and I'm not saying like that's just the secret sauce, but like most of the best tight ends in this league are freak. Goddard, freak, right? Like these guys have high-level athleticism numbers. The offensive line class, man, it's pretty Packersy because everybody's short.
Yeah.
The Packers aren't usually in to that 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". There's the kid from Minnesota, right? I think there was an Iowa State tackle who doesn't have great film, but turned out to test just through the roof. Kind of the good offensive linemen are small, even all the way up at the top with Will Campbell. Will Campbell is, you call him small, but like, relative to other top 5 tackles, he's small.
One, he's got the arms are short, right?
Yeah.
Like, which Green Bay, if Will Campbell, it was a Green Bay Packer, they would stick him at tackle and say fail, where a lot of teams probably wouldn't. And so that's just kind of, to your point, I think a lot of these guys, Green Bay would be like, no, you can play tackle. You can play tackle here for us. That's fine.
Yep. On the defensive side of the ball, it's just tough because these guys aren't testing. Everybody now is just really, I think, locking into their pro days, comfortable environments. I think the top guys are getting even further and further away from competing, right? Like you won't have a Calvin Johnson level prospect do anything anymore. They'll just stop because I don't know that Travis Hunter did anything. I don't know that Travis Hunter will do anything at Colorado's pro day. They've got nothing to prove. It's not going to hurt their draft stock. The data is getting harder and harder to find. And now you're going to have to dig it up from pro days if it even happens there.
Well, it's the Marvin Harrison Jr. of last year. If we remember that. He didn't do anything throughout the process. He just and he's kind of right to an extent where he's like, there's so much data out there on how I move on a football field. Why do you need me to run a 40? Go look at my GPS times. Go look at my acceleration times. Go look at, the torque and force that I can generate getting in and out. Like that stuff is all available to NFL teams, not to us. We're kind of getting to that point. If you've gone to the NFL IQ, Combine IQ, pretty sweet that you can look at some of that stuff in there too. Like, Xavier Worthy is the fastest 40-yard dash, runner of all time, but he's actually third as far as top mile per hour hit in the 40-yard dash too. So it's really interesting. If you're a nerd like us, I would suggest going over there and looking at it. But I think we're getting closer and closer to that, Ross, where it's going to be like, why are we running a 40? Here are my AWS GPS times on the football field. Like that's what you want to see, right? I'm in pads. I'm playing the game. This is how fast I run when I play the game. So we'll see. But yeah, these guys just don't test anymore, and which is a bummer. I think there's still a lot of usage that you can get from these tests, but yeah, a lot of them just don't do it.
Porter. Are we talking about Darian Porter? What are we talking about?
Yeah, the Iowa State corner that, speaking of guys that did test, that were confident and watched me go. Here's my question for you. And I know we're mixed on Porter. When you watch his tape, do you see that type of athlete?
I see more of a linear athlete, and I've kind of been on this kick, and we're certainly far enough removed from Kevin King that it's probably not Kevin King PTSD. But man, I'm not about the tall corners. It's a very, very difficult position for tall people to play. It's really only like Sauce, Woolen, and PS2 that even do it well. Most of your corners that are any good are 6'1" or shorter, and it's just hard, man. And you get so tall. Like I think the perfect corner is like 5'11" and a half. And I know you think, they'll get mossed by somebody who's 6'4", and it's like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't really seem to work out that way usually, right? So
okay, would you rather him get mossed once every 6 weeks, or would you rather him not be able to cover an in-breaking route 8 times a game?
Right, exactly, man, exactly. I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's interesting too because we talk about like outliers and stuff, and it's weird to say bigger, stronger, faster at some positions does not equal success on the field. And I think corner, and I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm not set in stone on that. I think if you can get a corner that can play at 6'2", I'd rather have that. I would rather him be 6'2" and be awesome. But like to your point, there's not a lot of those guys. And I think, like Richard Sherman too was a guy that had really good length, but
he played cover 3 his whole life.
Yeah, and so and that's the thing. If you can get the pieces around them, it can be really special. But you kind of need a lot of pieces.
Right, it's easy to play cover 3 when underneath is Cam Chancellor killing everybody that runs an in-breaker.
And Earl Thomas just erasing everything on the back end.
Right. So when we're talking UCLA linebacker, we're not talking about – are we talking about the love of my life, Carson Schwesinger, or are we talking about the Medrano kid that just ended up being an absolute alien?
I think Green Bay's going to like both of them, honestly. The edge rusher, he's got the arm length. He's got they're going to like him, I think. But I was talking about the Carson. I can't say his last name, but
Schwesinger.
For him,
salad, beautiful hair.
He does, and he look great in green and yellow. But he's someone that I think a lot of people liked, you and I included, for a while. Like I remember going kind of back late in the NFL season, starting to kind of get into some of this stuff, and watching him and be like, why is no one talking about him? Like, this guy's awesome. And now he's kind of starting to get a little bit more of the love and praise that he deserves. But I thought similar to Horton. I thought he was like 220, 225. And he comes in, I think he measured over 240, like 6'2 and a half, 240, like something, like he's big. He's a big dude. And then he jumped really well, tested really well. And a lot of people, Oh, he's got the RAS score, but is he a good football player? Yes, he's a good football player.
Yeah.
First off, he's a good football player. Secondly, he's a freak show athlete as well. So that's the marriage I think you want. So I think he had himself a really big weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be interested in both those guys. One last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Kenneth Grant. The Packers have consistently, consistently, in my opinion, shown that they will kind of go up and down as far as if we're just talking about relative athletic score. I think the Packers have consistently shown that they'll just sort of roll with the punches at defensive tackle. Like Wyatt had a great relative athletic score. Kenny Clark didn't. There's a bunch of guys that have been kind of Carl Brooks, horrific. Like, right. So, but even up in round one, right? Like Wyatt's up here and Kenny Clark's down here, and it's still. I don't think BJ Raji was a particularly wonderful athlete.
Broad jumps.
Right.
That's the only thing.
Sure.
A lot of these positions, Ross, I feel like we do kind of have we've kind of maybe cracked the code a little bit on what they like. Interior defensive line, I don't know what they like.
Yeah, I got nothing about nothing. I'm with you.
Yeah. I think broad jump is really like the only thing when you dig deep. Like all of them have pretty good broad jumps, which I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. But yeah, and with Grant, I wanted to bring him up just because he was a guy that kind of talked his game, and said, "I'm going to blow up the combine." They didn't do anything, and how does that hurt you? I feel like you can, a guy like him that's kind of back end or round one, you blow up the combine, you can jump top 12. Even in this class, that's really good, but he didn't do anything. Other guys kind of on the national stage in the spotlight, you perform really well, and then all of a sudden you're looking at, is he early round two type guy? And so like that's my curiosity with Kenneth Grant is where is he actually going to land? Does it generate the same amount of buzz if he goes out and blows up his pro day, as opposed to the combine? And that's why I do think the combine, if you're going to blow up a workout, it should be in Indianapolis where all eyes are on you.
All eyes are on you. All the numbers mean the same thing. You're competing. I mean, I get it 100%. He's another guy where I would say, can't be taken in the top 22. That's my opinion on Kenneth Grant. But Jake, thank you so much. Keep this short and sweet. Drink Badger State. Buy the draft guide using promo code DAILY for $1 off. And have a great rest of your week. Go Pack, go.